So why'd I go to jail before getting into the United States military? Well, let's start back in high school. Normally people don't care about high school, but that's kind of where the poor decisions and poor habits started, as for most guys. Big man on campus, football, lacrosse, all that. Ego starts building, start going out, partying. The bad habits start. We start drinking, we start doing drugs. Still going to school, still doing the right stuff, but, not doing it as right as we could have, right? Lost some scholarship opportunities because I was kicked out of high school for possession of marijuana and some fights and some other things that just stacked up. I was kicked out of high school and poof, all those opportunities dried up. Nobody wants to be dealing with somebody that's already having trouble in high school legally. So, I went into a small Division III school after and pretty much failed right out. Once again, was going to start sporting, but before that, I got in a huge car accident the summer in between senior year of high school and freshman year of college. Ejected out of a lifted Tundra. We rolled the thing like 14 times. I ejected out one of the windows, no seatbelt, into the desert on the freeway. Survived, had a dislocated hip, some broken ribs, but I walked out of the hospital, limped out with a cane 3 days later. That wasn't setting me up for success going into playing sports in college. So I was kind of banged up, was signed up on the roster for the football team and the lacrosse team, but wasn't going, didn't even show up to practices or games. So much trouble with the campus security, marijuana, partying in the dorm, all that stuff was pretty much told the dean told me, hey man, you got to go. So I did go back to living at my mom's house, going to junior college or working construction during the day, trying to go to school at night, not doing either because I'm going to smoking weed and doing drugs and just fucking lost, man, lost. Through this time, the bad habits are stacking. Not too many legal problems yet, but all of it's building, right? I'm setting the stage for you, setting the scene. Now rolling into college, I decided to shift some things up and move back east. I moved into the basement of my aunt and uncle's house just to kind of get away from everything. Best decision I ever made was locked back on, training, doing Muay Thai and working out. And I do all my credits at a junior college and I have the ability to transfer back to California, where I went to University of California, Santa Cruz. And immediately when I get there, big school, girls, whole thing, all the discipline goes out the window. I start drinking, getting in trouble on campus again with the campus security, all the deal. And I spent 2 years there. I was working at a bar, doing the damn thing. Barely squeak by, graduate, squeeze out some grades to graduate. Got a degree in politics and international relations. And through that 2 years, I probably had been arrested 7 or 8 times, at least. Drunk in Publix, fighting, DUI, driving on suspended, possession of prescription without a prescription, yada, yada, yada. And I knew I was going in the military, but I was so immature and so I lacked self-awareness in such a massive way that, because I was like, oh, later, I'll go in the military later, but then I graduated from college and, well, later was now. Later had arrived. And I go into the recruiter and I say, hey, here's the deal. He goes, hey, man, you're fucking on probation, bro. And you have pending court cases. There's no way, dude. We can't touch you. So I go, well, I gotta probably get this figured out. I get a lawyer. I do the whole thing. They're trying to work some angles. And I'm like, hey, can we just commute this probation? I was on an informal 3-year probation from the DUI. And the judge was like, yeah, I'll commute it for 6 months in jail. And I was like, okay. I thought it was a win. My lawyer's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a little extreme, 6 months in lockdown county jail, you know? And so he said, fine, 4. So I accepted. And that's what I did. 23 years old, just graduated from college, right into jail. And that's where I spent 4 months at a Santa Cruz County jail. It's a lockdown facility, so it's a county jail. It's not prison, which there's no yard time. You're not getting out. I didn't see the sun for 4 months. We had a little patio area where it was all closed in with, chain link fence and all that, and there was no direct sunlight in this little, 15 meter by 15 meter square that had a pull-up bar and a dip bar. So I was just in there working out, and I did my little 4 months and got out with a commuted probation. So my time in there was, it was all right. It's not, it's nothing to write home about, but I was actually in a good state of mind there because finally I was clearing up all that shit that I had stacked up and I could actually move into my future. I get out and I immediately start on this recruiting process. I wanted to be a SEAL, but I was fucking scared, man. Truth be told, I wanted a gun, I wanted to deploy, and I was scared of not passing SEAL training. Being from San Diego, California, where I grew up near the Base Gun and Water Demolition, compound where the SEAL selection school takes place, I had known a lot of guys, wrestlers, football players, good athletes. Nobody ever made it, and everybody ended up scraping barnacles in the Navy off ships, undesignated after they failed out of SEAL selection. So I was terrified of that, and so I went into the Marine recruiter, an officer recruiter. I thought, even with my background, I don't know what I was thinking, and they said, okay, let's take it. We got to take a picture of all your tattoos. He took a picture of my tattoos, and they sent it up the chain. It came back. Fucking no way. Not only no officer for the Marines, but I couldn't even enlist in the Marine Corps nationwide. They said I had too much of a percentage of my body was tattooed. So I go to the Army. I was like, all right, the Army, that'll be good. I'll go, Ranger or Green Beret. I'll get a special program. They ran my background and they said, no way. So now I have 2 branches that denied me. I didn't even think about the Air Force. Respect the Air Force, but it just wasn't what I was drawn to. So, and I said, talk to the Army, said, there's no way. They said, no, man, you have so much of a checkered background. We have popping on so many different things. Now, mind you, I only had misdemeanors, but a lot of them. I stacked them up, probably 13 or 14, maybe more, over my teenage and my early 20s. But all the dispositions were clear. All the fines were paid. I had no probationary sentences. So I go back to my mom's house, 23 years old. I'm a loser at this point. I was starting to feel that pressure that I got to get some shit going fast, or I'm going to be that guy living in my high school hometown, not doing shit. So I was in like a depressed state for about 2-3 days. I was like, no way I'm going to be able to go to the Navy if the Army wouldn't take me. And some kind of higher consciousness came into me and said, get up, write down your charges and your cases and the dispositions of them. So I did. I got up with a pen and paper. I wrote it down, and it didn't look that bad when I looked at it in black and white. I didn't write everything. I was strategic about it. I didn't write every time I had been hooked and booked. You feel me? And I just wrote the things that went to court, and we had, serious stacked paperwork on. So, because if I would have written every time I had been arrested, like in handcuffs in the back of a car, it would have looked like one of those ancient scribes. If they pull out like that, it would have looked ridiculous, man. Something out of Lord of the Rings or something. So I go in, and with this piece of paper, I had typed it up, made it look nice, and I gave it to the Navy recruiter. I said, hey, man, I was waving the white flag up at this stage. I really thought it just wasn't going to work out for me. And I handed it to this petty officer, the recruiter, and he looked at it, for a bazillion years. My world came standing still, and he looked back at me and he said, we can work with this, but you are limited in what you can do. You can be a SEAL or pretty much, wrangle shit in the Navy, and that's about it. And I said, okay, well, I'm here to be a SEAL, so let's do that. So that's a little bit about my backstory of why I went to jail. Specifically, it was because I was on probation for a DUI and a violation of probation from a fight, and also a driving on a suspended. So it kind of stacked up a little bit. And the judge, fair enough, he could have commuted it, but I hadn't earned that just signing the piece of paper and calling it good. I had just not been correct through that whole time in college, and I earned that little time in jail. It wasn't something serious. I wasn't doing hard time, but it was 4 months in county jail. People that have been there know what that's about. So, only guy there on a misdemeanor. Everybody's there on felonies. We're going waiting trial, going to federal prison, or going to, other place. So it's a mixed bag of categories. It can get a little dangerous. And I saw some pretty weird shit in there, man. It is sad, man, the state that drugs get, because everybody's in there on drugs. That's the truth. Or some type of, mental disorder. And that's even more sad to watch. It is a sad state to watch what methamphetamine does to people, what drugs and alcohol do to people's lives. Everybody in there is so fucking sad. It's sad for their choices, but it's just sad, man. It's about the lowest frequency place you could possibly be is in some type of incarceration. It's people wasting their lives through decisions that are so simple to not do, so simple to live correctly if we just listen to that guiding voice that tells us how to live. And that's it. It's not complicated. We overcomplicate things, and all we have to do is just act fucking right and be smart. Fucking be smart out here.